Hello, this is a review of the Boker Urban Trapper. This is an exceedingly light and exceedingly slim little gentleman's type folder knife. I'll just go through the facts and then I'll tell you what I'd like and what I don't like about the knife. So you've got a 3.5 inch VG10 blade on a flipper system which is operated on caged bearings inside of the pivot. So that's two little discs containing about 8 ball bearings which are fixed inside those discs. Makes for a very smooth opening, which is really impressive for such a light blade. Going down the handle, you've got a titanium frame, and then you've got Coca-Bolo inlays on the handles. So whether you call it a frame or a liner lock, you'd probably just end up calling it a liner lock because they do look like liners. However, it is almost like a frame lock. It's just with the Coca-Bolo scales, kind of adding more as a lock stabilizer for that lock there. So either way, very similar mechanism. Liner, bit more of a semantical issue there. So you've got a handle which is about 3.75 inches long, so it's only a little bit longer than the blade, and you've got a nice deep carry pocket clip at the end, so pretty good materials. The blade weighs about 1.8 ounces, so it's really light. It's about 40 grams or so. It just weighs almost nothing. Really impressive how they've got the weight all the way down like that, and it's quite a reasonable little mix of sort of tradition and modern materials. So let's get into what I like about the knife. I really like, first of all, the overall design of the knife. It's pretty unique. There aren't too many knives out there that are kind of this traditional looking but modern acting. So if you look at that blade, it's got that really long clip that all of your old case trapper knives have. In fact, it's very similar to a trapper knife apart from having the second spay blade. I like it's really narrow in the pocket, and it actually just feels like you're just carrying a pen or something when it's saving, put it in a shirt pocket or something like that. It's really discreet because it's so light and so slim. You can keep this in your pants pocket and you can keep pretty much anything else next to it. It's really just going to ride up against that far seam of your pants back towards your hip, and it'll be like the pocket is empty. Really good. And overall, just really cool to see knives that are sort of traditional looking but using, you know, more or less modern and cutting edge materials. VG10 is the steel. That's, you know, keeps the price down a bit. VG10's become more of an average steel these days. There's lots of steels that are better than it now, but it's still no slouch, and it's good quality stuff, and it takes a really fine edge. Won't hold its edge for super long, especially when you're using it on things like rope and on wood, but you probably won't be doing it with this knife anyway, so I'll go into more about that later on. I like the pocket clip a lot. Really good deep carry. I like the scales a lot. They're done really well. They're sort of really natural looking steel. They haven't got sort of that glassy sheen that over-treated wood gets, so they do seem like it does, you know, certainly look like it's real pieces of real wood, so that's often good. Sometimes it almost just looks like a plastic or like a fiberglassy impersonation, so really nice there. The action is just so much fun to play with, really super smooth, fires out, especially for, as I said, for such a light knife blade. Really well done. So I like the action, I like the design a whole lot, and I love how slim it is to carry. It's got a good enough steel for the cost, and I think the cost is, when you take it all into account, being that it's a titanium caged bearing flipper knife with a deep carry clip and VG10 blade, which isn't, you know, it's not 8CR 13 MOV. VG10's a couple of steps above that. So I think for about the 120 Australian dollars you'll pay, or the 68 to 75 US dollars you'll pay, I think it's a pretty good knife, and I think it's pretty good value. So that's what I like as well. I like the value. Let's just get into what I don't like about the knife. So one of the things I'm not super fond of with the knife is that its build quality really does make it a little bit less versatile than lots of other knives. Sitting next to it is a zero tolerance 0909, which is obviously a much more capable knife for heavy tasks, but probably not as capable for the light tasks. Anyway, what you've got here though is two effectively identical locking mechanisms. Rock solid on the zero tolerance, just that slightly thicker liner, but also the fact that the liner where it meets the knife is cut correctly so it gets better contact. So really well done. No blade play at all in this knife, as there shouldn't be for such an expensive knife, but it is you know, drawn into stark comparison when you hold this Boker and you give it the same squeeze and you can see that liner moving up and down the blade tang. Because it's not cut correctly or fit, the tolerances aren't as strong as zero tolerances, which aren't zero actually, but they are pretty good. Whereas this is sort of just a little bit more, just a bit more dinky, and it's still an effective enough lock for, you know, if you're cutting cheese and you pull the knife back out, it's not going to fold on you from that. But if you're thinking of using this as your one and only pocket knife, taking it to work, if you work a job doing sort of harder jobs, sort of maybe if you're cutting open bags of cement or, you know, things like that, where the knife can sort of catch temporarily and you need to sort of pull it out of things, this might not be the knife for you. It's definitely more, just the lightness and especially that locking issue just make it seem a little bit more delicate than lots and lots of other pocket knives I've handled. Even the other knives that are about the same size, and you know, this is also a reasonable sort of multi-purpose knife, the Mantra. It's classy enough to be a bit of a gentlemanly kind of knife because of the design and the scales and such, but it's also much more inclined for hard use as well, because it doesn't have any issues with lock. It's all just built really solidly. Titanium scales, better blade steel, but that doesn't matter. They have put in a steel lock bar as well, so just the contact point is a piece of steel rather than a piece of titanium. Titanium does seem to flex and mould and move a little bit more than you'd probably want it to as well. So there's that, and another thing that does sort of prevent me from really wanting to get too dirty with this knife is that tang, when you start to use it as flipper. Tangs often encourage you to, if you start to use it as a guard, it's really sharp. It's a sharp little square, so you might want to sand or file that down if it is bothering you, but it is so you can flip it, you know, assertively from the top by really catching that point and flipping it. However, it's such a good flipper that you don't really need to, and you can just sort of glance past the whole flipper and it does fly open as well. So I would be, if this is bothering you, there's probably no harm really in filing it down, but I think in general the knife is built probably quite intentionally just to be a bit of a fancy day carry type knife without really being intended to take it to work or really put up with too much other drama. So just a couple little points there, just that, yeah, issues of build structure and build quality that probably restrict the purpose of the philosophy behind the knife just a tad. I think they're intentional though, so I'm not really going to knock the knife too hard. Not all knives are for all tasks, so I think this is ideally, as an ideal use, would be a food knife or a knife to wear to occasions, to restaurants, to weddings, places where food might be served. It's a really good looking knife, and to be honest, it does just look like something you'd have in your kitchen in a block if it was fixed especially. It looks just like a little paring knife or a little steak knife, so I really can't see an issue with having this as your daily carry, because it's not particularly remarkable looking in terms of scary weapon type thing. So really versatile for that on the other hand. So I think as long as you're happy just to have this as one of your collection, like rather than just being perhaps your main knife, I think you'll get a lot of stuff done with the Boker. And I think an ideal set of knives is in fact these three. Like you've got a fancier gentleman's type carry knife with modern materials, so if you're not into the whole traditional slip joint thing, you've got a Boker trapper, you've got something like the Mantra here, which is a great sort of daily any-purpose knife, and then if you did have a need for a stronger, tougher work knife, then, geez, my dogs are going a bit funny, then you've got things like this zero tolerance, which are just truly almost overbuilt or with really high structure and integrity to them. So there you go. I hope that was enlightening for you all. Boker Urban Trapper, really cool little knife, just not for the heavy stuff. Alright, I'll see you later.